This argument that the government should stay out, that it saps our pioneer stock. I used to hear that argument when we were talking about raising the minimum wage to $1.25. The fact of the matter is, what saps anyone's self-reliance is working 60 hours at straight time, or working at 85 or 95 or $1 an hour.
In America, somebody who works 40 hours a week should not be living in poverty.
We are behind every country pretty nearly in Europe in this matter of medical care for our citizens.
We remain the only major country on earth that does not guarantee all of our people health care as a right.
I think something really big is actually happening around Bernie Sanders. It's hard to understand the full scope of it, but I think we may be underestimating. I mean, it's very hard to get 20,000 people to do anything.
Bernie Sanders continuing to draw in massive crowds. This is at the Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena. Look at all those people.
The gymnasium was so packed, an overflow crowd watched Sanders from the lacrosse stadium where the speech was played on the scoreboard.
Senator Bernie Sanders, he's been amazing out there. The 20,000 people show up in Boston. He's attracting huge crowds.
You look at that crowd in Birmingham, and you go, wait a second, oh, so that's where he's weak?
This is incredible.
Well, I would hate to see where Bernie Sanders is strong if I were in the Clinton campaign.
But Bernie Sanders, these are rallies. These are not events where people are staged and roped in. Those are people dying to be in a room with him by the thousands. And we all know how these things work. If he wins Iowa, if he wins New Hampshire, then all bets are off.
Bernie Sanders got more votes than then Senator Barack Obama did, which sort of made my jaw drop, because when Barack Obama ran, I mean, that was hope and change, and so many people were so inspired and passionate, right? So Bernie Sanders doing even better than Barack Obama.
And I think if you look at the crowds that we are bringing forth here in Iowa, in New Hampshire, all over this country, the excitement they were generating, where millions of people are now saying, Jorge, that maybe it is time to go beyond establishment politics and establishment economics. Maybe it's time for a political revolution to take on the billionaire class and create an economy that works for all of us.
And I think the fact that he's making this stirring call for fundamental transformative change really speaks to where many voters are at. And it's why he has such momentum in Iowa and New Hampshire and among Move On members and many others, because it feels like we're in a moment with many crises that we need to address right now. It feels like a moment where we need to be making bold plans and figuring out how we're going to achieve them.
You know, I know the United States has a secret ballot and that tradition, but do you mind if I ask you if you guys like Bernie Sanders? Do you care for
Who do you think is going to win in 2016?
Bernie Sanders.
Do you think he's going to win, or you want him to win?
I think he's got a really interesting shot if the DNC will allow Americans to hear his message.
I mean, for the longest time, people have been saying, well, I love Bernie, but of course he can't win.
That's right.
Now it looks like he can win, but his biggest problem is in the black community. The brothers don't like him. Why?
Oh, no, that's not true.
Oh, it is.
Once they get to know Bernie and recognize it's true.
Okay.
Brother Bernie Sanders represents the politician. He's a grand exemplar of integrity in public life at the national level. He represents the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., Fannie Lou Hamer, and Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, and Dorothy Day.
African-American youth unemployment in this country is 51% for high school graduates. That is a national disgrace. And what I have said, and repeat to you today, that instead of investing in jails and incarceration, I'm going to invest in education and jobs. Put the kids back to work.
Dr. King, in his last 2 years of life, talked about a poor people's campaign, organizing unions on behalf of poor workers, organizing against the war machine that was perpetuating violence in Vietnam. Bernie Sanders is the only politician who has consistently for 50 years taken that social justice platform into politics. And right now we have an opportunity to elect someone who is directly out of the philosophy of Kingian nonviolence.
When people hear Senator Sanders
Sanders' message, particularly the African American community, when they get a chance to feel the burn and to know that the political revolution is coming in a way that will lift them and benefit them, and that they will have a say in this, the African American community will know what I know right now, that Senator Sanders is the best candidate to be the next president of the United States of America.
And as we look out at our country today, what the American people understand is we have an economy that's rigged, that ordinary Americans are working longer hours for lower wages, 47 million people living in poverty, and almost all of the new income and wealth going to the top 1%. And who is satisfied that millions of people have police records for possessing marijuana when the CEOs of Wall Street companies who destroyed our economy have no police record?
Well, if you think about it, the modern social media world is an unfiltered world, and that's exactly who he is. He's real, and what's really exciting about him is that the more you learn about him, the more you like him. And that's exactly what we were trying to do with feeltheburn.org.
The Bernie Sanders subreddit is really, my understanding, very active thread, right?
Yeah, we've got about 145,000 people on any given day. We have between 2,000 and 5,000 active members. We've raised nearly $1 million.
Bernie Sanders won't be bought. He won't be bought. He has been around for a long time. He has proven that. There is nothing that people don't believe about the fact that he will not, come what may, be bought.
We are fighting to maintain our democracy and prevent our government from being owned by a handful of billionaires and the politicians they employ.
He says what he means, and he means what he says, and he is not for sale. You can't buy him, and I just think that is so neat.
For me, this man has removed my trepidation over saying aloud that capitalism and democratic socialism, that not so scary word, can and should coexist.
We are going to win New Hampshire, we're going to win Iowa, and I think we're going to win the Democratic nomination, and I think we're going to win the presidency.
So can a socialist be the next president of the United States?
A Democratic socialist certainly can and will be.
This cooperation between an alert and progressive citizenry and a progressive government is what has made this country great, and we shall continue as long as we have the opportunity to do so.
When we stand together and demand that this country works for all of us rather than the few, we will transform America, and with your help, that is what we're going to do. Thank you very much.